right, we should be live on all the platforms. Happy Tuesday, everyone. This is Uncle Devin. I believe today is Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I didn't come to you live last week, but I thought I would share with you this week. I'm going to wait just a few minutes before I jump into a discussion. I know there's a lot going on everywhere. And I'm going to resist the temptation to talk about what's been, the opening of the Democratic Party convention last night, which I fell asleep on, by the way. I don't know about you all. Um, I think many times when I can't sleep at night, I'll turn on like an insight timer or meditation stuff to get myself to go to sleep. I think I'm just going to start cutting on Joe Biden because, oh my God, that was the best sleep I had in years. Say what you want about what he said, but oh my God, it was dry. It was, man, his talking style is just he put you right there. That's anesthesia at its best. But anyway, Uncle Devin here. Welcome to Uncle Devin Show for those that are following me on those platforms. But this is part of Evolving with Uncle D for grown-ups. And you can follow us on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and find us at Evolving with Uncle D. I want to welcome everyone that's following us on all our YouTube pages. And we want to talk very briefly. I've got to respond to many comments that people made regarding my post about the 325 AD Council of Nicaea. First of all, I think the last I saw was somewhere up to 240, 220, 245,000 views on one of the social media sites. But man, the vast majority of people loved it. But then there are those that were just coming back and they were just, because it's an attack. They feel it's an attack and they don't even realize, they get caught up in the emotion and don't even realize what I was trying to say. So I want to clarify that. And I'm going to start that in 1 minute. Welcome, everyone. Again, I am Uncle Devin. I'm going to ask you to follow me on Evolving with Uncle D. That's what this is all about. I'm evolving. And my evolutionary process has been something that I like to even talk about, share, because all of us should be evolving. If you're not evolving, then you're devolving. And that's a whole nother thing that we can talk about. But in about 30 seconds, I'm going to share with you my response to many comments related to my post about the Council of Nicaea that took place in 325 AD and in Turkey. So we're going to get started in that in a couple of seconds. Thank you all for joining in. Make sure you join, you subscribe. And part of this is part of my series on the politics of religion. That to me is my expertise. I've been studying in this, focusing in on this, especially growing up in the AME Zion Church. But AME Zion, of course, stands for African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. And my activism there. And I've certainly went from being an individual, one that believed in the individual concept of sin to the social gospel. And then I graduated from the social gospel to liberation theology. And as I tell people now, I've gone from liberation theology to liberation from theology. And we'll talk about that. But again, I mean, no disrespect for those who are in a faith, because we need everybody everywhere to fight against oppression. And quite honestly, if you really truly follow some of those tenets of Christianity, of Islam, of Judaism, you will be fighting every day against oppression. So let me jump right into this real quick, and then I'm gonna expand on this. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did a post, and it was on the Council of Nicaea, and we're going to put the link in the chat for those who may have missed it. And in fact, it's already there. You'll see it, the original post on the Council of Nicaea. And for those who just give a quick little history, the Council of Nicaea took place in 325 AD. It was created by Constantine. They call him Constantine the Great. He was the ruler of Rome at the time. And basically what I summarized was the fact that there were 1,800 bishops that he commissioned all throughout the world to come, or at least in that part of that region of the world, because he wanted to create a different type of religion. And my whole premise, what I'm gonna mention in a moment, is the fact that out of those 1,800 bishops, only 300 supported his concept of religion that he wanted to develop. So he threw out the other 1,500 bishops. Okay, called his army in and said, "Get rid of them," and went with the other 300, and then forced everybody else to follow his version of Christianity. And then I'm also saying that this wasn't a religious, spiritual experience. This was absolutely a political ploy to control the world. Now, this is my response, because some of the responses that we received, and I probably should have pulled some of them up, and I still can. Actually, I can't, because it's so, when you read them, I couldn't even comment on most of them. But this is my response to them. I'm going to say it in a very short manner, and then I'm going to expand on this. I must respond to angry and incorrect comments made by some in my last post about the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. I never said that Christianity started at the conference. You heard what you wanted to hear. I said that the Christianity that most people practice today did not start until 300 years after Jesus' death. The Roman Empire came to power around 30 BC under the leadership of Augustus. Rome, the capital of Italy, located in Europe, was a colonizer that controlled many foreign territories then, including much of North Africa, which includes Egypt, Europe, and Western Asia. They initially refused to accept the pre-Roman version of Christianity under the Coptic Church, the oldest Christians in the world and the successors of ancient Egyptian mystery systems. Rome persecuted these North Africans for over 300 years. In fact, among the first martyrs were 3 indigenous African women, Nymphamo, Perpetua, and Felicita. Even though many of the true followers of the faith at that time, known as Nazarenes, were being persecuted, their numbers continued to increase, threatening the Roman Empire's existing power structure. The Roman colonizers wanted to abolish the ancient African Christianity of that day for political purposes. So they established a new religious system, or a new world order, or a new world religion. That's a Freudian slip, I guess, which began with the Council of Nicaea under Constantine in 325 AD. As I've said, history is not an event, but a process. European colonialism is nothing new. And then I give a list of references, and some of the references, I mean, you can find in my book. I wrote a book in 2002 that documented all of this. My book is called An Appeal to the African Church in America, Beware of False Prophets. But I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about money. Beware of false prophets. But inside my book, I quoted 3 sources, although there were many more sources I could have quoted. John G. Jackson, Christianity Before Christ. That was, I believe, in 1985, he wrote that book. Yosef Ben Yakinen, African Origins of Major Western Religions. And Professor Anthony T. Browder from the Browder File. And so those are just 3 posts that three references that I had, but I need to do a deeper dive on this, and I'm going to reduce that section that I just read into an individual post to respond to many of these folks. What they heard, when I just said that, again, I said that the Christianity that most people practice today, these folks were thinking I was saying that Christianity did not start until then. No, I'm very clear on that. Christianity belongs to Mother Africa, and you can never steal it. That's what they don't want us to teach. You know, it's sort of like teaching American history and starting in 1492 and not talking about the civilizations that existed here by Africans and natives for centuries, long before they got here. But, you know, that's the simple fact of white supremacy, that the specific history of Europe becomes the general history of everyone else. And it starts with them. So likewise, Christianity, even when I grew up in the church, we never talked about religions that existed before it. We acted as if nothing has ever existed until, it just like Christianity just came and fell from the sky. And so for those who are practicing Christians, to me, this is a way that you can really truly enhance your spirituality by going back and looking at the origins. As I mentioned in another post that we posted up, where Dr. King even talked about you can't talk about Christianity without talking about the religions that came before it. And so I believe that once we go in that direction, you'll see a whole lot more. And many of these folks, I mean, the reaction was incredible. I mean, people really, really got upset. And now some people came with some versions of what they felt was facts. And again, I'm not questioning, and what I did say in that post was that there was no representation of people who were of African descent, except one person who I believe I think I said it was from Turkey, or not Turkey, from I can't remember, Persia, I think, or something like that. And what people were saying was, no, a lot of those bishops came from Africa. Well, again, Africa was colonized at that time. So many Europeans had settled in Egypt, become bishops, and then they went to the conference. And so the information and the research that I have will suggest that. But even if it wasn't, the fact is that Constantine wanted to control, as Rome wanted to control much of the world, and they had to do that through North Africa, through Egypt. But the power of the message and the power of the movement of the Nazarene movement and the Coptic Church movement was strong. And so what we practice today, what most people practice today, is not that original Christianity as given to the world by Mother Africa. What we see is a version created by Europe through Rome that changed, plagiarized, and even stolen certain religious and spiritual concepts from Africa, and has now used them for political purposes. And the reason why we can talk about this right now is because we see that many political decisions, many policies are being made underneath the guise of this religious understanding. And so I'm one of the ones that believe that those of us, those who are in a religion, those who are spiritual, those who are atheists, anybody who believes in truth and justice need to stand up against these folks that use religion as a political tool to continue the exploitation of the masses of the people. That's what liberation theology is all about. And you see what's happening with the Christian right, white right movement, where they're using this whole concept and trying to control the narrative. And we have to take it back, because that does not belong. There's never been a religion, a major religion, that came out of Europe. Never. Not one. All the religions started primarily in and out of Mother Africa and in parts of Asia. We can see that history is there, coming out of the central part of Africa, moving. We say, if you look at the map that we have today, we say up to Africa, but it's really down, because in Egypt, from our perspective, upper Egypt is lower and lower Egypt is up. Just, it depends on how you look at the world. If you take a look at the world, some people, the view of the world is totally opposite than the way we've been told to look at it, and they're not wrong for that. And so my argument was that, again, and I still maintain this, and the history will show it, that we have to dig deeper than what we are given, and what we are told. And this is my biggest thing to those that are practitioners. I'm, again, I mean, it ain't my job to try to change you, because I can't do that. You have information that you can help me with. It's just about learning information. But no matter where we are, we cannot afford to allow ourselves to have one or two people tell us and dictate for us interpretations of history and of Christianity and of Islam and of Zionism. Well, not Zionism, Judaism, which Zionism is not a religion. It's a political philosophy that uses Judaism for its evil purposes, because Zionism is racism. And I'm so grateful to see the people protesting outside of the Democratic convention. We need more protests. And I even remember protesting in the 1990s when I was a member of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. And I even wrote this and submitted it to when we had the church conferences. I said, we need to be part of the anti-Zionist movement. And I applaud my Jewish friends and who are standing up against Zionism, because that also goes to show that Zionism is not a religion. So big props to the was a Jewish Voice for Peace, the Palestinian Youth Movement. Continue to do your work. We support you in that regard. But likewise, Christians, we have to wage. Those Christians have to wage, and I say Christian. I grew up in the Christianity. I mean, my whole family's Christian. I mean, I can't separate my faith from how I grew up. I mean, I tell people I've grown beyond the limitations of Christianity, but I'm still of it because that's my, I know that brand. But I am of I come out of the school of liberation theology, where the religion was used as it was when Denmark Vesey used it to free themselves, and the Reverend David Walker and the David Walker Appeal, how they used it for liberation, how Harriet Tubman, who was once a member of the AME Zion Church, and then I think she left and became a part of the Jehovah's Witness, how they used religion to liberate people. That to me is how we use it, and how we have to work together on these things. So it's difficult time sometimes when I'm listening to the different conferences or the established the status quo, Democrat and Republicans, and you hear them referencing religion quite often. I think it's very disingenuous when they choose not to talk about the origins of that religion. You can't talk about Christianity with it's sort of like talking about the ocean and not talking about the tributaries that feed it. But even that, I would say it's the other way around. It was the ocean of African spirituality that created the tributaries of the religions that came after it. And so that's what my argument back to them is. First and foremost, take your emotion out of it and listen to what I said. You heard what you wanted to hear. Secondly, you still haven't proven to me that conference didn't exist. And some will tell me that Constantine was led by God. Well, whatever. If he was, then that's not the God for me. I'm gonna tell you that right now. He was part of the imperial Rome that colonized much of the world at that time, and it's no irony that it was Rome that, according to the Bible, killed Jesus. And so that's the contradictions that we begin to see. And so I just wanted to mention that. I know that I mentioned that the first martyrs were 3 indigenous African women that they don't want to talk about, even though I have to give credit. The Catholic Church will mention Nymphoma, Nafamo, Perpetua, and Felicita. In fact, I believe my niece's middle name is Felicita. And they were African women of North Africa that were, if you go back and look at their stories, how they were persecuted, standing up for their beliefs, and they were following the original Christianity given to the world by Mother Africa, not what we see that's going on right now. And I'm gonna do another post coming up over the next couple of weeks, because the two most important people in Christianity that has helped to shape the Christianity that we see today is Constantine the Great and the Apostle Paul. When we do a deep dive onto who Apostle Paul truly was, we will see that today most people don't practice Christianity. No, they don't practice and follow the teachings of Jesus. They follow the teachings of Paul. And in my opinion, they contradict. And I wrote a book where I shared that information. I know that there I know of ministers in the AME Zion Church who believe the same thing. And they are, I've been to their studies, and they've used my books, and we talked about those things. But we're going to unravel all of this, because I'm against the exploitation of one human being by another human being. And exploitation has happened in many different forms. It has happened in law. It has happened in economics. It happens socially. It happens in employment, but it also happens in religion. And I believe that right now it takes all of us to fight against those that are using religion for political purposes, because too many people are dying in the name of God and in the name of religion. And I can't sit back and allow that to happen. Listening to many of the speeches last night, it was amazing that I didn't hear not one person talk about the enormous U.S. military budget that continues to be to explode, if I may use that pun. Um, um, Over, I know at least last year, I don't even know what the numbers are now, but over $886 billion that was given to the military. We're talking about almost $1 trillion into military. And the United States has over 300 military bases in over 80 countries around the world. And so we just want to make sure that we continue to raise these contradictions, because people want to call this a Christian nation, which it isn't. This is not a Christian nation. Most people may be Christian, but this is not a Christian nation. Um, those that follow the teachings of Jesus the Christ, peace be unto his name, know that he's recognized as the Prince of Peace, but yet we support the King of War, the Emperor of War, and that's the United States government. And so, from a standpoint of tying this back to what we do, I mean, I'm going to be sharing some posts about how through my music, it touches on and it focuses on this particular history. Um, I'm going to do a post about my song, "The Opposites of Life," and how that's connected directly to some of the teachings of the Egyptian mystery system. I wrote a song. One of the first songs I wrote on my first album in 2012 was called "Africa." And in that song, I talk about the importance of Africa. There is a place, that started the human race, and it's called Africa. But in verse 3, I talked about first country named in the Bible, it proclaims is found in Africa. And that's Genesis 2:13. And that's Cush, which represents Ethiopia. Sometimes it's spelled Cush, sometimes it's spelled Kush. Then I also talked about when trouble was near, Mary hid baby Jesus there. We're talking about Africa. They didn't hide him in Europe. They didn't hide him anywhere else. Came to Africa, where he grew, morally, physically, and prepared him intellectually for his life's greatest work. And so, this is how and why I say that no matter what your faith is, I don't care what your religion is, from a cultural standpoint, as an African, one of coming from African descent, I have a responsibility to defend our history and our culture. And Christianity is a major part of that. And that's what we're doing. And so I'm going to uh, conclude there, but I needed to just kind of clear the air about what's going on, and at least those comments that people had. And we'll take it from there. And okay, TikTok. Somebody's from Cooper Lane. I don't know if you see that, Lolita. Shout out to Cooper Lane Elementary School. I do some work over there. I don't know if you're a teacher or one of the students, but nonetheless, thank you so much for joining. And I hope you're having some fun. And don't forget what I always say. We use music for its true intent, and that is to elevate and uplift. And that's what we're looking to do. So thank you all so much. Let me see if I see any other comments that I may want to address. If you have anything, you can put it in the chat, but also you can follow us. We have a YouTube page for grown-ups. It's called Evolving with Uncle D. Evolving with Uncle D. And then, of course, the content for children is under Uncle Devin's show. And this is part of my passion. This is what we love to be able to to be able to share. All right, I'm not going to take too much of your time. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have some more good content coming up. I know that we're at the end of August, but stay tuned. I got some nice some other new information. I got to give a shout out to my friends in Vancouver, um, Canada. They was a festival that I was honored to be um, a guest speaker. It was called the Love James. Okay, and I'm going to do a post about this in not too long from now, but um, I've got to just give them a shout out because they had me to come up and really talked about it was based on my book, the an appeal to the African church in America, and we had such a great time. I'm looking to get back up there. I'm going to be sharing information about them. You can look them up at DA Love James, and I'll try to put something in the chat. I'm trying to pull it up right now. I should have had it ready. Uh James. Okay, let's see what we got come up. But nonetheless, I'm going to be doing a post about that because there's some great information that I learned even being a part of that process. About the African origins of British Columbia. Okay, I've learned a lot, and I'm learning a lot about the impact and the role of Africans in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, not even the United States, of North America, from Seattle all the way up to British Columbia up into Canada. So we're going to talk a little bit about that coming up. And so anyway, I'm gonna end here. Like I said, I can go on and on, but I don't want to do that. But yeah, they have you can look up something that was called the DA-LUV James Book Festival. They just had it, but they still have some great information. They have a film festival coming up, and I'm gonna see what I can do to try to make it up there. I love the vibe. I love the energy that they had, and they just finished their Each One Reach One series. And so I'm pretty excited about working with them and learning more and growing with them. So thank you all so much. I appreciate your time. If you have any comments or questions, please share them in the chat. And in the meantime, as I always say, life is a drum, so beat it.